All right, so today's lecture, I'm not showing my screen. Today's lecture can be found in the Ruby Objects, Classes, and Inheritance syllabus section, and I'm going to keep that pulled up for the entirety of this lecture. Essentially, today's lecture can be boiled down to some very quick syntax if you wanted it to. Like if you're like just like taking your mind and you're saying like, oh man, what do I really need to know? There's like 5 syntax things you need to know, and that's it. Really what today's lecture is how we structure that syntax and what we're building out with those pieces. So if you're not totally with it today, that's okay. This may not be the lecture that you totally get right away, but we'll have multiple attempts at this. But object-oriented programming is built on the concept of classes and objects and class inheritance. We're going to be looking at that today. Okay, I went a little bit ahead and just started writing down some of the vocab words I want to go over today. Essentially, these vocab words are all you need to know for getting started with classes in Ruby. And that is the word class, the word instance, the idea of something called an instance variable, something called an initialize method, setter methods, getter methods, and super. And then there's a subset of setter and getter methods. We'll call them attribute accessors. 2 T's? Attribute? Yeah. Cool. So that's what's going on here. Essentially, if you can get all these things down, you know this lecture and you're good to go. All right. In Ruby, when we want to understand what's going on and what Ruby is as an object-oriented programming language, the first thing you want to do is understand that everything in Ruby belongs to a class. So if I take the number 1 in Ruby, everyone see my little number 1 here? I'm going to have you guys all up here today. Just a heads up. So if you see me looking up here, that's why I'm looking at you.
Yes.
Okay. If I take the number 1 and I just print 1, what do I get?
1, an integer.
All right. Not that interesting, right? All right. But this is a number. And so numbers have the ability to have methods run on them as well as anything else. And so I'm going to put the method of class on this. And class alerts me to whatever the class of the data I'm currently working with is. And so this tells me integer. Cool. Fair enough, right? If I take an empty array and I put class on it, any guesses?
Right.
Array. If I take let's see here. If I take a hash, but this is actually going to be an object, I bet. Well, let's find out. Oh, it just didn't even register. That's fun. Cool. I've never tried that before. That's fun. Let's just do this. We get string. Fair enough, right? All right, y'all. I have a more impressive question. If I take 1 and I put class on it, what do I get?
Class.
Class. What's going on here?
that class is registered as class as an output. That's why, because when you put another class, it incorporate that. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, class that
Close,
class is class.
close.
An integer is a class.
Yeah, and an array is,
Class,
and a string is.
class.
These are all classes. But literally, somewhere in the Ruby code, is an actual class called class. And this is the code for it right here. And so what we're going to learn today is how to build out our own classes. Classes and how they associate with one another, how they interact with each other, when you put them together, is what we would call a program. So a program with an object-oriented language is just a bunch of classes creating objects and having those objects interact with each other. Okay, what is an object?
A collection of key value pairs.
Isn't it also an instance of a class?
Yes, it is. And it's an instance of a class. Now, admittedly, in JavaScript, we can make objects that aren't instances of classes. In Ruby, we can't. In Ruby, we can only make objects as instances of classes. So maybe I'll put a Ruby object. So both of these things have to be true. It is a collection of key value pairs, and it is an instance of a class. All right, I want to make a custom class. We are going to make ourselves some D&D classes today. So let's make some basic ones real quick. To create a class inside of Ruby, I start off with a keyword class. You don't have to write this down. It's right here in the syllabus. So don't worry about making sure you know, like just know where to find this. Start off with the keyword of class. And let's just start off by making some of our players, shall we? The casing convention for class is Pascal case. So we're going to say cool. And from there, our class's scope is defined by the word end. Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay. Inside of a class, we can create custom methods. So a method is created when we say def, and then we give it a method name, and we give it an end to define the scope of the method. So now we have some nested scopes. We have our class scope, and we have our method scope inside of that. And our method name here is going to be set player name. And I'm going to create a variable called name, or maybe we'll call it player name. That makes a little bit more sense. And this player name is going to be set to some sort of parameter. Okay, any questions so far? Anybody out there that this looks a little chaotic to, or already is like starting to lose track with my notes in the way? This is something that would happen to me, is as the more notes were written out, I couldn't see the forest for the trees. Okay, I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna put this down here and get rid of these things. A little bit more helpful? Cool. That's just gonna have to float at the bottom of our page for now. Sorry about that. So that's just there. Okay, so if I want to make a class and it's a player and I have a way to set my player name, my class still doesn't exist yet. How come? Easy way to ask this question. How many people are playing my game of D&D right now? 0. How many people could I have play my game of D&D right now?
As many as you want.
Infinite. But nobody's actually playing it. Why could I have infinite people? Could I have infinite people playing, but I have none playing right now? What's going on?
You haven't invoked anything. You haven't done anything except for make a blueprint.
Correct. We've only made a blueprint for people to play our game. No one's actually playing it yet. So the way we create instances of our classes in Ruby, so that they are objects of classes in Ruby, is by using the keyword new. You can find it here in the syllabus right here. So I'm going to say player 1 is going to be assigned to the class of player dot new. Player 1 is going to be assigned to the class of player dot new. All right. And what I want to do is I want to print out player 1. And you know what? I can just press up. Let's get rid of these for a second. Let's comment them out. Alrighty then. When I run this code, we're going to see something new for the first time. This right here is a Ruby object. Specifically, this is the hash symbol that represents this Ruby object. Player is the name of the class, colon, the value of this object's name. This same kind of idea is what runs Bitcoin. This same kind of idea is what runs any like encrypted security systems. The same kind of idea right here is what we utilize for making passwords secure, that kind of stuff. So this is called a hash. Well, not really. This is similar to a hash symbol, but this is actually a hash in Ruby. And so you can see we have a what kind of pair? What kind of pair is this right here, everyone?
Key value.
A key value pair. And it's specifically one that was created for us by Ruby because we haven't done anything with names yet. We've just created an instance of this class player. Anybody still wondering what instance means? Yep. Okay. So an instance of something is when we have an idea and then we take that idea and make it real a certain number of times. Who here had breakfast this morning? Cool. Somewhere in the ether, in the Platonic realm of forms, is this concept called breakfast. It just exists. It's the perfect, and it contains all possible breakfasts in it. But who here had eggs this morning? Who here had some sort of oatmeal or cereal? Who here had some sort of smoothie or protein shake? Cool. So different breakfasts existed, and you are all instantiating the idea of breakfast. You all had breakfast, but your breakfasts were all different. In fact, they were literally in front of you and not in front of somebody else. Behind me, I have 3 guitar cases and a ukulele. Inside of these 3 guitar cases are 3, guess it, guitars. Each of these guitars all follow the same format. They have 6 strings, they have a body, they have a neck, they all play, they're generally in tune, right? That's what a guitar is. But they're all 3 different objects. Quite literally, I can touch them. I'm sorry, bud. No one's at the door. I can literally touch them because they're actual objects. And these objects are all 3 instances of the class of guitar. Cool? A little bit more helpful? I lost Clifford quite literally.
Can you say that one more time? Instance is the idea of what?
An instance is making one item from an idea of something. So like if I have a guitar factory, you know, like Gibson, like the actual place where they make the guitars, they can make infinite guitars, but when they make one guitar, they've instantiated their plans. If you have a recipe for, I like shaking a piece of paper. If you have a recipe for chocolate chip cookies, that recipe does not taste good. You could crumple it up into a ball and eat it, and it will taste like paper. That recipe is a class. It has instructions on how to make chocolate chip cookies. You can instantiate that recipe, and you'll get like 12 chocolate chip cookies out of it. That will be tasty. Those will be objects you can actually eat. Well, will be tasty when you actually eat them. Cool.
Thank you.
No worries. So that's what's going on here. So we have this class of player, and we're instantiating it with player 1. And when we instantiate it, we get this key value pair back of our player and some sort of hash symbol. Cool. My job now is to update our player with an actual name. So I'm going to call on player 1, and I'm going to run set player name on player 1, and we're going to give it the name of Brooke. Brooke, you're playing D&D. You excited? Or is that just some nerd stuff?
I'm super excited.
Okay. And then from here, how do I see this change that I've created?
Print it.
Let's comment this out for now. Actually, I'll probably come back and update that later. Okay, so we're gonna print player 1. Any questions before I do this? Nothing showed up.
Brooks ID now is at 0x, the whole thing.
So this is still the same object. Look at it's still, everything here is the same as before. And we have the same key value pair. But we for some reason don't have access to this thing of player name. And this is because our method here is setting a name, but we don't have anything that is getting our name for us. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to a concept called an instance variable. And we're actually going to come down here. We're going to kind of start fresh. Sorry for moving around a lot. I know that kind of can make you dizzy. Oh, output string is not what I wanted. Okay. So down here on our clean class, I'm going to introduce to you the concept called an instance variable. What is this right here? What is player name in Ruby?
Technically a variable.
Just a variable. But this variable doesn't have access to the rest of the class of player. It only has access to its scope.
Oh,
It only has access to its scope. Hugh showed us something cool called a global variable yesterday, where the variable will be given access to the entire page that we're working in, but that would cause some conflicts as we copy and paste some stuff here. So I'm going to introduce to you something else called an instance variable, and that's by utilizing the @ symbol. An instance variable gives access to that variable from anywhere inside the class or anywhere that has access to that class, including the terminal. So the instance variable is what made the work that we were doing accessible to this output here of player one. Instance variables are going to play a large part in how we transmit data moving forward into full stack applications. When we need to move data around projects, we're going to be utilizing instance variables. Cool.
Does that only work when using classes, or can we use instant variables anytime? And now they pretty much like make it a global scope then, don't they?
They don't. They only scope to a class that they belong to. Global variables are globally scoped. So I'll showcase this to you here in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have our players and we have player names. Let's come up with a new class. I need a D&D class here. Someone help me out with the syntax. How do I make a new class in Ruby?
I don't want to go class.
And someone choose from the classic D&D classes.
Paladin.
All right, class Paladin. We're going to need to set our Paladin's name, but I also want to create a method called a getter method. So we're going to do two things. We're going to create a setter method or setter methods, and we're going to create some getter methods. And setter methods and getter methods are named so for setting data and retrieving that data in meaningful ways. So when we want to set the name of our Paladin, what kind of code block are we going to create? What kind of code do we utilize to set information inside of a class?
A method.
Define.
A method. Cool. Pally sounds too close to player. Let's do Paladin. Set Paladin name. All right, somebody who hasn't spoken up yet. Someone help me write out the syntax to set our Paladin's name.
You didn't show us a regular one.
I can't hear very well. Whoever's talking. Yeah, we can do that.
At name. Space. And that is called a shit. It's not an equals. I'm so bad at this term. Assignment operator.
Hey.
And then legendary.
Okay, but I don't want all paladins to be named legendary.
Oh.
Gets that.
Oh, so this would be paladin. Right? No, I don't remember what the.
We can do that. I
Or
just
it's
need to create a
parameter.
parameter.
Yeah.
Cool. We got our setter method. Now I want to create a getter method. Any ideas on how I'm going to create a getter method here?
Another method. It's just like a function inside of like. That's how I'm remembering. So it's essentially just we're making functions, aka methods in Ruby, right?
It's a function that belongs to a class, right? That's what a method is. So we have a paladin with a basic setter method for setting the paladin's name and a getter method for getting the paladin's name. Cool. Let's set up this paladin real quick. If you don't know what a paladin is, you don't really need to know, but think of like a really buff lady or a really buff dude who's super religious and is like, I'm gonna crush everyone's head. That kind of person. For Thor. That kind of stuff. Cool. Setter methods, getter methods. Let's set the name of this paladin to legendary, and with the word dairy being the kind of thing that you drink in the morning for breakfast. And then let's get that name back, but just the name back. So somebody help me out here. How do I instantiate paladin? Somebody hasn't spoken up yet. All right, calling on voluntold. Sam, help me out here. Help me create a variable that instantiates paladin.
All right, so you're gonna do so we've got we need, I guess we could still use person one. So we're just gonna
Okay.
do or paladin one.
Okay, we can do player one if you want, or we can, I say, let's do this.
Okay, Cliff. Then you're gonna do equals paladin dot new. And
Cool.
it should give you that hash symbol.
Okay, let's do it. There's paladin right there. I'm gonna go comment out players real quick.
That's you, Cliff.
All right, Cliff, help me set your paladin's name to legendary. You're gonna want to unmute.
I know, I'm reading the syllabus. It would be Cliff dot set name.
What do I have it here?
Set paladin name.
You don't have to really look at the syllabus because I got it pulled up and I got the code pulled up too, so it'll help you out.
And then parentheses, single quote, legendary.
Yeah, the main character from Letterkenny is a paladin, just to point that out.
Cliff is more of a spoony bard anyways.
Misspelled legendary.
Yes, we spelled it wrong on purpose.
Okay.
If you check out the chat. Okay, so we've set the name. But now we still can't see the name because I'm not printing out Cliff after that. But I don't want to see the whole thing of Cliff. I just want to see the paladin's name itself. So Vanessa, help me call on the method that will get this name back.
If you do P,
So call on the object first.
that would be person would
He
be
sells Fords next to the side of a.
Cliff.
Okay, so we call on the object first, Cliff.
Dot get underscore name. Get paladin underscore name.
Yes. Because this is the code we're actually working with here, right here, everybody. We're not actually working with this code. I'm just using this as a blueprint for you all. We're actually working with this code over here. Okay, get paladin name. All right. And look what we got back. What data type did we get back, everybody?
String.
String.
Yeah, as compared to what?
The hash.
Yeah, good job. We did not get a hash. We got the string. We got the actual data value that we're looking for. Cool stuff, huh? All right. Let's do another class. Can I get another D&D class out there?
Ranger.
Class Ranger. So this is our setter and getter methods here. I'm going to show you another way for us to do setter and getter methods as well. Or specifically how to do a setter method. And that is by using a method called initialize. Initialize. And initialize is a protected keyword method that exists inside of Ruby. So you'll create def initialize, and then you'll do an end. But in this initialize, Ruby itself will call upon this method without you doing so. And I'll show you how that works. Initialize can create some like shelf space. Imagine, like, turn to your side real quick in your room. Imagine a new shelf. Initialize is making new shelf space inside of your class for you to save variables. And initialize can take arguments, as many arguments as we want, like name param. And this is a parameter, by the way. I keep using param to identify what's the param and what's not, parameter and what's not. And then I'm setting that name parameter to the instance variable of name. But initialize can also just set some basic information without having to use arguments. And that would be like,
So is initialize just like a broad set statement compared to like set paladin name? Okay.
yeah, and it actually saves us a little bit of time and effort, because when I want to instantiate, let's call this Cody. When I want to instantiate this class, I'm going to say Cody equals ranger.new. Instead of calling on the initialize method somewhere else, I'm going to say, Cody, what's your ranger's name?
Stevie Wonder.
You're the worst.
It's Wander.
All right. And then from here, actually, and so we'll see what this does here. Cool. So this initialize method is connected to the new method. In fact, I can do this without the parentheses as well. I'll show you both ways. Oh, expected end of literal input. Huh. Does it really want this? Yeah, it did. Interesting.
So every ranger would get a bow and doggo.
Every ranger right now has a bow and doggo. We can change that here in a second, but I just wanted to showcase that initialize can do both. It can take in information via the new, and it can also set its own information right here. Okay, so maybe we don't just say weapon, bow, and doggo. We say we have our name parameter, our weapon parameter, and our pet parameter. If you're not familiar with rangers, classically rangers have like some sort of pet, and they have some sort of way they interact with the world violently. So Cody has Stevie Wonder. Can I get somebody else's ranger out here? Francisco. Maybe I'm wrong. I take you for a ranger type. Francisco, what would your ranger's name be?
Vecna.
Say again?
Vecna.
Vecna, the warlock? All right.
Wait.
How about Vecno? We'll do Vecno. All right. I'm using the parentheses to contain all of the arguments for my new ranger. So I also need to know, what does Vecna use as a weapon?
These hands rated E for everyone.
Hands. And what kind of pet does he have? I mean, we gotta go with spider, right? Like that's the
Naked mole rat.
that's Ron from Kim Possible.
Well, call me, beat me if you want to something.
If you want to reach me, if you want to text me, that's okay.
Page me.
Oh, page me, that's okay. That was before text. That's right. Wait, can we do Ron instead? Francisco, is that okay? He's definitely a ranger.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mole rat, one word.
I'm not sure.
I've never thought about the fact that he's a ranger. That's so great. I'm gonna make that an actual character. Okay, so I have this setter and getter method. I have the setter method of initialize, but it's not a getter method. All it does is it sets up these values for me to call upon. So let's check this out. Given 1, expected 3. Love this error. Ruby objects classes RB82 initialize wrong number of arguments given, expected 1, given 1, expected 3. Where is that the case right now?
Is it because you have a parentheses encapsulating all of 91?
Cody's.
And Cody.
It's
Cody has
Cody's.
the things.
It's a previous
Oh.
instance that's causing our problem here. Okay, so Stevie Wonder needs a weapon. Kelly, help me out here. What is Stevie Wonder's weapon?
Better not screw me, Kelly.
The power of music?
Microphone. A microphone.
Microphone. All right. And then what kind of pet does Stevie Wonder have? Elijah.
He's got a parrot.
Love it. All right. Okay, this is getting a little cluttered. I acknowledge that fact. So let's take it slow and let's look at what's going on here. We have two rangers being posted. We have a ranger that ends in 2238 with the name of Stevie Wonder, the weapon of microphone, and the pet of parrot. We have a ranger ending in 1BD0 with the name of Ron Stoppable, the weapon of hands, and the pet of Rufus the naked mole rat. Come on, y'all. That's pretty silly, right? All right. So that is how we create an initialize method. We can also create getter methods that will get this information back in a meaningful way as well. That's not a problem. We just make another method scrolling up now, just like we did before. All right. Let's make 2 more classes and then we'll call it a lecture. Sound good? So let's make a class, another D&D class. Who has not spoken up today? Okay, I'm just going to acknowledge the people I feel like I haven't heard from. I haven't heard from Tuan. I don't feel like I've heard from Dewey. I don't feel like I've heard from Lewis or Daniel.
You heard from me.
I have heard from you. Hugh, Catherine, Joyce, Rashad, Jason, and Joseph.
I feel like I talk all the time.
Well, you're welcome to input on this one. What is the class that we want to work with from the people I just acknowledged?
Monk.
Monk?
Nah.
I like monk. Monk is fun. All right. Monk needs an initialize method. So our monk is going to initialize with certain values. What kind of things does a monk get?
Well, let's give him his name first.
Love it.
Tony Shalhoub. And I'm gonna popcorn it to Jason. Let's make his hair color green.
Love it.
His pet is a flying bison.
Oh, okay. All right. Hold up. This is brilliant. Give me a second, guys.
Special abilities, Iron Body.
That's not holding up. That's literally the opposite of not holding up.
Everyone overwhelm him quickly.
Wait, the special ability is flying bison?
His pet.
Doesn't, yeah.
Monks don't have pets.
This one does.
It's D&D. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, let's go on with homebrew rules.
Use a spell and get a pet.
Technically, anyone in D&D can have a pet for any reason. You just have to purchase it. But Some monks do have spirit animals. That's fun. All right, where do we got? We got special param, and then we have pet param. Okay, what's the special? What is the special that he has? Or special power or whatever.
Speed walking.
Swim in the air.
Wait, what was the something walking?
Speed walking, she said.
Yeah, I
Love
said
it,
speed
okay.
walk.
Airbender.
Speed walking. All right. Tony Shalhoub has green hair. His special power is speed walking, and he has a pet flying bison. Absolutely love it. Notice something though that I had to do here. In fact, I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna take that, put that down there, put this here. I'm gonna expand this out just so we can see this a little bit easier. All right. These values, hair color, spirit animal, special power, and name, are not in any particular order, but they are associated with their correct parameter that I've created for them. However, in the initialize method, I do have my parameters in an order that has to match the arguments given to my new method. Name param, Tony Shalhoub. Hair color, green. Special param, speed walking. Spirit animal parameter, flying bison. This order matters. If these are out of order, they will be associated with the wrong key value pair accordingly. This is one of those things that I can tell you, but you're really going to have to experience a few times before it clicks in. But that's going on there. Okay, cool. We have our first monk. I really appreciate it. I want to introduce a new way of accessing all of this information to all of you, and that is called the adder accessor. The adder accessor should change colors when you do it right, by the way. Gains access to all of the instance variable values inside of your class to both read and write those values. And the way it does so is by passing those same exact variables as symbols. And it doesn't have to be in any particular order. It just has to have each of the variables as symbols themselves. So if I wanted to update the hair color of Tony Shalhoub to something other than green, and also change his hair color, I can just call on that exact value now, and the adder accessor will give me access to it. Oh. What? Something's going on here. Oh, when you run into this error, it's because you put a space in that doesn't belong there. Just a heads up. When you run into like this weird thing going on here. $106. Oh. Oh, right. And we don't just, it's not a method, it hasn't created a method, but it's now a variable that you can assign using the assignment operator. Totally forgot that.
Does the adder accessor have to be above the?
Yeah, adder accessor wants to be the first thing inside of a class.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get rid of this P here. Actually, no, we'll do that. So we can see that we can see this storyline unfolding. So we have our monk that has the hair color of green, flying bison, speed walking, and is named Tony Shalhoub. Then we updated our monk's hair color to purple using the assignment operator by calling on hair color using the adder accessor. Now our monk has hair color purple, spirit animal same, everything else is the same. But if I just call on this variable of hair color, I get back this string of purple. So the adder accessor works like getter and setter methods for individual variables.
So further up in your code, could you have done an adder accessor with the names? I guess it already is name, huh? So we
Yeah.
could change Hugh's name.
Who?
Hugh. Like, how could we make it so that Hugh could change his name?
So this is not a name. This is a variable.
Okay.
You would have to change Tony Shalhoub to something.
Tony Shalhoub is the name. Anything on the left side of an assignment operator in Ruby is a variable that we are creating. And variables are just placeholders for data. In this case, it's a placeholder for a hash slash an object.
So let's say we made this class for our text-based games yesterday, and we wanted to say that Tony Shalhoub dyed his hair purple. Will we like use string interpolation and just do hue dot hair color in the curly brackets to get that to come up, or would it just be?
You have beat me to the next section. I appreciate it.
Oh, I was just curious. Does it have to be inside the class, or can you do it outside of it?
This is going to have to be inside of the class because these instance variables only have access to whatever is going on inside of the class.
But if you called on get hair story, like hue dot get hair story, it would do that.
Feel attacked about this get hair story.
Oh, that's funny. Haven't even thought about that.
Race-based contract.
So you would use that for like you'd make those getters for something you might use like multiple times in like a program or something. On that.
Yeah, this is totally dynamic. Let's make another monk real quick. Hugh, you can select who's making the next monk.
I'm gonna popcorn it over to Jeremy.
Jeremy, what's our monk's name?
Jeremy, you're muted. I think I heard him say he needed to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna popcorn it over to Rashad.
His name is Ang, AANG.
You sure that's not pronounced Ong?
Or yeah, sorry, I'm Compton.
No, don't say sorry to that. I tried to make a joke about M. Night Shyamalan.
That never happened.
Canon.
Don't talk about that.
All right, what's the next argument that Aang needs?
Hair color?
Yeah.
He's bald.
Not actually bald. He's got a tattoo. Is that bald still, technically? I don't know.
Yes, it's bald.
I guess in the third season he has black hair.
Oh yeah, you're right.
All right, he is bald. What's his special power? We're looking back at this initialized special param.
Airbending.
What's his pet?
Flying bison, but we already used that one.
What's that little flying monkey's name? Yeah, Momo.
Momo the lemur. All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, so Rashad has given us Aang, who is bald, has airbending, and Momo the lemur. So we need to update Aang with his hair story.
So it's
Gonna be a Rashad that head color assigned to he's got chia hair for some reason.
Chia.
Oh, my man, Dirty over here.
Unquote.
Thank you. Single quote would actually do best here. And now I want to know the story.
It's Rashad dot get hair story.
Okay. And because I'm printing it in here, I don't need to put a print down here. Okay, let's do that. We signed that. So we're going to see two stories happening, unfolding in front of us. Yep. First up, we have a monk with green hair, Tony Shalhoub, and then Tony Shalhoub dyed his hair purple. Next up, we have a monk who is bald. Aang dyed his hair chia. That is doing him dirty. But notice how it is the same string, but it's with totally different values. Right? So I want you to imagine just for a second, what are we utilizing when you log into a website and it says, welcome, Jason. Welcome, Lewis. Welcome, Vanessa. Does that welcome change for anybody?
Oh, it's consistent.
But that name changes for everyone.
That's right.
Because you are an instance of a class of something called user. Or at least you maintain an instance of a class called something called user. And so we're taking your user class and we're using it to display things. Pretty cool, huh? Same thing going on here. All right. Last couple of things. Our monk has. No, that's like everything right there. Okay. Whatever, man. Let's call it there. Let's call it good. Let's review some stuff. How do we create a new class? How do we create a class? What's the key word for creating a class in Ruby?
Class.
Class.
What's the keyword for instantiating a class in Ruby?
New.
New. Cool. How do I create an instance of a class in Ruby using .new? This is very, very important. What do I assign that .new to?
You gotta assign a variable name.
Gotta assign it to a variable. Are there limitations on what I can call the variables?
No.
I call it whatever you want. Call it X. Call it Ashay26, whatever Elon Musk called his kid. Whatever you want. Just a variable name. Kyle. Cool. When I am using new and I pass new arguments, what method is it calling upon inside of a Ruby class?
That's your setter.
Yes, but specifically which setter? When I pass arguments to new, what is it calling upon?
The set method.
Calling on the initialize method. Initialize is a special method that exists in Ruby for us to utilize in our classes, and we can pass to it parameters, and so that those parameters will be arguments we pass to the .new. Okay, what about, there are two kinds of methods that belong inside of a class other than like methods that just do logic. What are those two methods?
Setter and getter.
Setter and getter methods. We could even classify ones that do logic just as setter methods because they're setting the new data. Cool. All right. Classes can have methods and classes can have variables, and those variables, just a standard Ruby variable has what kind of scope?
Local.
A local scope. It's local to either the class or to the methods themselves. If I want to take a variable and turn it into a variable that has access to the entire scope of the class and everything that has access to the class, what do I do to it?
Forgot the name, but you put the at in front of it.
Cool. Does anybody know the name?
Instance variable.
An instance variable. Anyone can figure out why it's called an instance variable? What's it called when we take a class and we make one of it?
It's an instance of it.
Yeah, and so if a variable is called an instance variable, it's a variable that has access to the
Instance.
whole instance. There you go. All righty. There is a special method called attribute or attr blank accessor. It has read and write privileges. If you, what kind of data does it take as an argument? What data type?
String.
Symbol.
Symbols. Use those colons in front of the words. Those symbols are identifiers. They have a lot of power. They're very cool. I haven't shown it to you. There's two other kinds. That's actually like 4 other kinds. There's 2 other kinds of adders called attr reader and attr writer. They are essentially like it can read only or write only, that kind of stuff. But attr accessor does both. All right, cool. That's everything. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back and we'll get into challenges.